Hello and welcome. My name is Morgan, and today I'm in my studio doing some sketching in a mixed media sketchbook with some watercolor and ink.
I'm starting here with a page of very loose sketches, and I'm going to be applying a light layer of watercolor on top. Very loose. This is just sketching, so nothing too serious. So I like to start with a whole spectrum of yellows, oranges, and reds, which provide a great base layer when working with skin tones, which is what I'm working with today. Just a series of floating heads and a couple figures. This is to reinforce what I have recently learned. It's all imaginative, so I'm just going with the flow. So the initial layer is loosely applied to indicate structure and form for my very loose and messy sketches. Now, since this is not watercolor paper, the results are a little bit more predictable than I am used to. For instance, the paper, I have noticed, seems to have a very textured appearance when wet, but I did notice that once it dries, the washes do look a lot more even. So it does look a little dark and ugly here, but just trust the process. I've added a little bit of some blue from a palette that I have off to the side, so don't be too surprised if you see some other colors be introduced out of nowhere. I just try to intuitively grab colors and just apply splotches wherever they seem like they fit. Now, inevitably, I do make mistakes and things will not go the way I originally planned, but it is something that I do try to work with because when working in traditional media, unexpected things are going to happen. And a lot of the pressure that comes with making traditional visual art like this is that mistakes are just a part of the process. You're going to have to learn how to work with them because they simply don't have an undo button for reality. So when sketching like I'm doing here, I just go with the flow and hope for the best. This is all just an exercise in controlled chaos. Just looking to see what comes of the shapes and colors and then working on top of that. It's all meant to be meditative, not stressful. This is also how you learn how to let go of lofty ideas of perfection. Like I've mentioned a couple times, my sketches are very, very sketchy. They were very quickly done as a warm-up, and I was just trying to see what my knowledge has brought me in studying heads and faces recently. And so at this point, I'm just trying to experiment with shapes and sizes of features and seeing what does and doesn't work. Sometimes something great comes of it, and sometimes it just looks like a mess, and the point is not to get too attached to any outcome. Here I'm just trying to create a variety of different skin tones. I wasn't sure how they would look once they were dry, so I was just experimenting. Nothing too out of the norm. Very safe and easy stuff. You might also notice that I'm only using one brush for this entire page for all the faces and figures. I'm trying to use the largest brush possible for everything, just so I can block everything in, so that I have, like I said, a good base layer to start indicating form for the sketches. You have to work from large to small in order for it to turn out right. And you'll also notice that I'm trying not to add a whole lot of water to the paper because I'm not sure exactly how much it can handle before it just completely destroys it. I think I did notice that the paper did peel when I went over it too many times when it was still wet. So I was trying to be very delicate with the paper too. But as I said, I'm just blocking everything in and just trying to get the general shapes in, and then I can work on top. So I will just leave you here to watch the rest of this until we get to the next part. Once everything dries completely, you can move on to the finer details. Here I'm starting with a Prismacolor Color Erase colored pencil just to see what that might do. A lot of the times, these are a great choice as a start because you can erase them and they're not very dark, but I think they work a little better on more textured paper. This paper ended up being too smooth for it to really make a difference, so I gave up and switched to a pink Pentel ballpoint pen, trying to keep things light, but I didn't like the way that it was clashing with the color scheme of the page, so I just ended up switching to a black micron pen. And that is what I use to fill in the rest of this page. Now, these sketches at the top of the page are very small, because when I was originally sketching, I was just trying to fill in every square inch of the page. So I can't really see what I'm doing very well because the camera's in the way. I'm not really used to filming while I work just yet, so that's something I'm going to have to learn how to work around. The paper is also bouncing with every pen stroke, so that was difficult to work around too. I was also just trying to work very quickly here because I wasn't sure how any of this would come out. This whole video was sort of an experiment. I didn't want it to be overly stressful. I didn't want to worry about too many things all at once. So I just decided to work very loosely and quickly here. This will practice for a more finished one, which maybe I'll do next time, hopefully. So thank you for bearing with my first full-length art process video. This has all been very challenging, but I hope that things become smoother and better looking the more that I do this. If this sort of content is your sort of thing, consider leaving a like, maybe even subscribe. Hopefully I'll be uploading more videos soon. I'll have to figure out my workflow and figure out how quickly I can get these done. I don't want to say too much. I have some pieces ready to start filming, so hopefully I can get those going as quickly as possible. But you might have to be patient with me because I just really don't know how fast I can work. This video in particular ended up being a lot more complicated than it needed to be. But it was just for experimentation, so it's just a learning experience. I've been wanting to make these sorts of videos for a long time and been planning for a while, but I haven't really had everything set up in order to do it until now. Now I have a brand new studio space that is just amazing because I have all of my art supplies in one single space. It's a huge improvement from how things were, where everything was kind of stuffed in various places all around the house. I totally recommend it if you can't work in an unorganized environment like me. But I also understand not everyone has that opportunity. I've been wanting to have a studio of my own for a very long time. These sketches did end up very rough, even in the end. So I do hope you at least enjoyed watching. The inking is just about finished. We're at the bottom of the page. And once this is done, I am going to be moving on to one final layer of watercolor paint, just to kind of solidify everything that I have so far, and maybe make the lines not look quite as stark as they look here, especially maybe to hide some of the mistakes I made. Inking and line work have never really been my specialty, and that is a place where I need a large amount of improvement, so that's why I'm practicing. But that is what it looks like right before I add the final layer. The lighting, unfortunately, was different too because I decided to film at night. And so I'll just go ahead and leave off here and say thanks once again for watching. I really do appreciate the time that you spent with me, and I hope you come back and watch some more when I upload again. I'll see you then. Enjoy. Bye.